In this week's episode, we are going to build a round epoxy coffee table. We're going to mix epoxy, we're going to pour epoxy, we're going to pour epoxy in reverse, we're going to do some demolding, we're going to remove some wooden snot, fill cracks and holes, route the edges, polish our epoxy, and stay put until the end of this video to see the final product. Starting this week's project off, we are going to build a round epoxy coffee table. I'm going to take you on this journey. I'm going to show you the steps we took in achieving this masterpiece. Now, the wood species we are using is called Matumi, and I would normally start my videos with what wood species we are using. Because we are doing this is, even though I am going to introduce the wood species we are using, we will still have some people asking us in the comment section below, what wood species are we using? So this specific wood species is only sourced from the country I'm from, South Africa. It's called Matumi. It's a really beautiful piece of wood. It's got beautiful grains, it's got beautiful characters once you're going to apply your oil on this project. Now, that being said, we're going to start off by cutting our slab in a round shape. Now, we previously made another round epoxy coffee table where we used a bandsaw. We used the bandsaw from Noah's Ark. I'm going to leave a link now if you want to go and check it out, how we built that round epoxy coffee table. So I thought to myself, I'm going to approach another method of cutting a slab into a circle. And I honestly do have to say, if I have to go back, I will definitely not use this method. We had so much trouble and hassle cutting the slab in a circle. We had to replace router bits just because the wooden slab is really hard. And I put a lot of strain on my router. So if I would go back, I would definitely recommend the bandsaw. But it was still a good way for me to learn and to see that there are different ways in cutting your slab to a circle. Now, I think if we're going to have to attempt this again, I will definitely take this to my CNC supplier and put the codes in the machine, and the machine will do all the work itself. I know that's being lazy, but I do want to try that method as well. Now, if you know another method in cutting a slab to a circle, please leave me a comment down below. I would love to hear what you guys would recommend. And as I always say, always remember to cut your slab slightly bigger. This is just going to make sure that you leave room for error if you're going to make a mistake somewhere in your project. Now we're just placing our slab into our mold, and you do have to make sure when you're going to use white melamine as your mold that you're going to apply wax release mold agent into your mold. That's going to make sure the epoxy is not going to stick to the mold. Moving on to the mixing of the epoxy, there's a tip I want to share with you guys. You're going to see within the next scene. I will place the bucket in a big drum that's full of hot water. Now, we would typically do this to help release more bubbles. So to give you a good idea, if you're going to warm epoxy, it's going to make it in a more liquid form. So we would normally stir our part A and part B together for around about 5 to 6 minutes. And the time the epoxy is going to stand in the bucket, we would just leave it for around about 15 to 20 minutes in hot water. That is just going to help the epoxy releasing more bubbles. And as I always say, we are using a deep casting epoxy, and what helps us to reduce bubbles is we will not cast the full depth of where the epoxy can be poured, meaning we would come to do 3 or 4 layers of epoxy casting. It's just going to help us to minimize bubbles, to literally almost having no bubbles in your epoxy at all. This is a critical step for us in achieving the perfect epoxy casting on all our tables. And the specific epoxy we are using is called AMT, and it's only sourced from South Africa again. Is a really great product for us, and we are not sponsored by them. We just absolutely love using the epoxy, and it's the best we currently have available for building epoxy tables. Moving to the demolding of our epoxy table, we used a very thin perspex as the side panels to make sure the epoxy is obviously not going to leak out. Now we obviously did apply wax release mold agent to this section of the mold as well, and as you can see, it's not that difficult removing the perspex from the side of our table. That's why the wax release mold agent is super critical in removing the table from your mold. Now there's obviously a scene that's going to be missed where we took our epoxy table and our coffee epoxy table. As you can see, there's two on my vehicle because it's a set the client ordered, and unfortunately I had to head back to the shop. I had to leave my tables at my local CNC supplier so they can flatten our slab both sides to make sure we got a smooth, flat, even surface. Moving to the next part of our project, that's removing all the small little bark and softwood from the cracks and holes we've got on our table. We're basically removing the wooden snot from our wood, if you can call it that. That's just to make sure we want a really, really perfect epoxy table, and we have to close that small imperfections of holes and cracks and lines to have a perfect product for our client. So that's why we need to make sure we dug in deep and get all those imperfections done by filling it with a little bit of epoxy. Now there's actually two parts I want to share with you guys, and that is the part one where we will fill all the bigger cracks and holes with epoxy. We will wait for it to dry, then we will come back, sand our table down to make sure all the bigger holes has been filled. Then we will move on by filling all the small hairline cracks and all the small little holes and bubbles we've got left to fill in the next scenes to come. So one of the other questions we receive a lot is people asking us, do we do the same methods on the underside of our table? And the answer to that question is absolutely yes. And the reason for that is our clients pay premium prices to receive premium products. So we go the extra length in basically what you're seeing me doing on top is what we do at the bottom as well. Now I know you will never look at the bottom, but for us it's quite critical in making sure that we deliver a premium product to our clients. Now you can just see I am busy opening the small micro bubbles bigger, because we found that closing that micro bubbles with epoxy is really difficult because the epoxy is not always going into that small little bubbles. So you will see that when you're going to open the bubbles up slightly, it will be easier for the epoxy to go into that bubbles. So this product I'm using here is called Crystal UV. It's quite a really good product. When it gets into contact with UV light or the sun rays, it literally sets in 30 seconds. It's super hard and you can sand it afterwards. So what makes this product nice is when you apply this epoxy into the crack, there will always be a little bit of overflowing epoxy going onto the wood. Now, the epoxy dries so quick that it doesn't give the epoxy time to penetrate into the wood. It goes into the crack, it fills the crack, and the overflowing epoxy doesn't penetrate into the wood. That's a really nice product. And since we discovered this, it really saves us around about 2 to 3 days closing all our hairline cracks and imperfections on our tables. Now we're just moving to giving our table a small 45-degree chamfer right around. This is just to give it that smooth look on all our tables. And the one tip I want to give you guys is when giving your tables a chamfer, when you want to stop, don't stop on the epoxy section of your table because it's going to leave a small mark. Make sure you push your router straight through, and if you want to stop or change positions, do it on the wooden section of your table. The other tip I want to give you guys in sanding and giving your table a chamfer is we will typically sand our tables down to 180 grit. Then we will come and router our table, because you will see the small bearing of the router bit will make a groove on the side of your table. Then we will continue sanding 220 grit to whatever our heart desires, because we love using Odie's oil. So Odie's oil allows you to sand to higher grits. Now we will typically sand our tables down to 320 or 400 grit sandpaper. Then we will apply the oil to our table. Now moving to the polishing part of this video, we are using the Festool system. Now what I love about the Festool system is it comes in 3 different polish compounds and 3 different polish sponge pads. We will start with the orange, then we will move to the blue compound, then we will move to the finishing compound, which is the white one. This is a really great system and it's been working for us for a couple of years now. And I'm using the Shine X. This is a new machine we invested in, and I will honestly say this makes our life really, really easy in polishing all our tables. It's an absolute blast and I absolutely love this machine. I also do want to introduce to you guys, we do have an online epoxy masterclass. It's about 3 hours of footage where I'm going to show you all our methods, techniques, everything you need to know about the tables we built. I am also going to leave a link now if you guys want to go and check it out on our website. And I'm also going to leave a small preview at the end of this video where you can see basically what we're introducing in this masterclass. We really had some great feedback on this class, and I will honestly recommend this course if you want to learn more or if you want to start a small epoxy company. I also just want to thank everyone. We just hit 50,000 subscribers this week. It's an absolute blessing. It almost took me 2 years, and I still have a year-end goal for reaching 100,000 subscribers. I've literally got 3 or 4 months left, so if you guys would be so kind, please hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and comment down below that you've done so. And I thank every single person for supporting this channel this far, and every like, every comment, every subscription we see, and we honestly appreciate it. It's honestly just helping us to produce future content, and it's helping me to live my passion to help other people with DIY projects, epoxy projects, and I'm just literally living my dream. So I really appreciate it if you guys would subscribe, and I love you guys for doing that. Honestly speaking, I think if I can, I would leave my day job just to do YouTube permanently. So help me make my dream come true by being a YouTuber. Thanks guys, I hope you enjoy the final product, and I'll see you next week with another super cool video. Until next week, cheers. Welcome to this online epoxy masterclass.
moisture content. You hit right into the core wood species to remove the bark with an aggressive steel wire brush. Table design, slab preparation, building process, epoxy mold. Release agent wax, calculate epoxy. 7, 8, so we got 16 points. Mixing epoxy, color, consistency. Whether to seal your live edges or not. Pouring epoxy. Sanding between layers, sanding grooves inside your epoxy. Dealing with bubbles. Maximum depth, curing time. Removing the table from your mold. A local CNC supplier. Start sanding, cutting your table to size and edges. Filling the cracks and holes. Smoky finish, high gloss see-through finish. Wood surface finishing, tabletop supports. To drill into our wooden section. Our online Epoxy Masterclass is finally here. It's 4 hours of masterclass where I'm going into detail on how we build all our epoxy tables. Where I'm going to teach you from start to finish how to build a epoxy table successfully. I'm going to show you all our methods and techniques we take in our everyday business building epoxy tables successfully. Down in the description of this video, you're going to find the details on how to purchase this masterclass. You don't want to miss this one.